The Atlanta Braves dropped the series finale to the Mets 7-6 last night, and honestly, they've got to be better with the roster. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on into Braves Today, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. I want to talk about the Pirates series that starts today in PNC Park. Braves will finally see Paul Skenes. They'll also face Konnor Griffin, who they didn't see last time. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But before we do that, the Braves split their series with the New York Mets 2-2. And it's hard to win 3 out of 4 games against any team. Let's be honest. At the same time, to finish 2-2 after the way you started is frustrating. Braves won 5-3 on Friday. Normal game, right? They blow out the Mets 14-3 on Saturday. They hit 5 home runs. The Mets have a position player in to pitch by the end of the game. And then to turn around and lose 10-9 on Sunday and 7-6 in 10 innings on Monday is incredibly frustrating and disappointing. The result is not great, and I think that's obvious. But the process by which you got that result is even worse, and it's even more frustrating. We talked a little bit yesterday about the Carlos Carrasco in the 9th inning thing, and about how you can't assume that going with a different pitcher for the 9th is going to automatically make everything else that happened after it the same, right? Carlos Carrasco was not the right choice on the roster there. He made sense in the context of the game, but I'm not here to relitigate that whole thing, right? We talked about it yesterday. If the offense shows any signs of life in the final 7 innings, you can go to a leverage reliever. They didn't. We didn't. We lost the game. But last night was another example of poor roster construction hurting the Braves. Reynaldo Lopez gives you 5 innings. He throws 80 pitches. Okay, 1 run, 3 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. I thought he looked really good. I was very impressed with how many whiffs he got on the fastball. Raylo was 0 for 5 on swings on the slider. No whiffs and 5 swings, right? 3 batted balls, 2 of those fell for hits. 1 of those was hard hit, right? The curveball, 1 whiff and 8 swings. They swung 4 times. They didn't get any hits off of it. They got a couple foul balls and the 1 whiff. The fastball, 27 swings, 9 whiffs. He averaged 95 with it, so up half a mile an hour. He touched 98 with it. And again, 9 whiffs and 27 swings. They put 6 in a play. They got 1 hit off of the 4-seam fastball. He got an 82% first pitch strike with the fastball. You're just getting ahead of dudes consistently, and because of that, he was able to get through 5 innings with, again, 3 hits, 1 run on 3 hits. And then Atlanta executes the plan, right? Didier Fuentes, Dylan Lee, Tyler Kinley, Raisel Iglesias, 6, 7, 8, 9. And Raisel Iglesias gets got in the 9th. Not a good night for Atlanta's pen in general. Didier Fuentes allows a run on 4 hits. Dylan Lee walks 2 dudes, no strikeouts. Tyler Kinley does walk a guy, but gets a punchy and gets out of the inning. And then Iglesias gives up multiple hits. He lets Francisco Alvarez single to open the inning. They throw a pinch runner in there. Ronnie Mauricio singles. Both those guys advance, or I guess the lead runner advances to third on a fly ball, a sac fly, and then Juan Soto hits a 3-run bomb off of Iggy. And I would have liked to just walked Juan Soto there. He had walked 3 times in the game, and there's probably a reason for that. I understand it's tough to intentionally walk Juan Soto to load the bases there. And part of it is you have a contact merchant behind him in Bo Bichette. Walt Weiss talked about this after the game. Here's a quote. Shout out to Jesus Cano, friend of the show, from The Athletic, for transcribing this. Quote, "It's tough to put the go-ahead run at second base. We thought about it. We got the 3-1. Probably didn't want to get that much of the plate with the pitch." And for context here, the home run was on a four-seam fastball 3-1 that was on the black on the inner third. I think what Walt Weiss is saying here is throw him something close to the zone and see if he'll chase, but you'll live with a walk there, right? You tried to get an out. It didn't work. You will live with a walk. Finishing up Walt's quote here, "That's what goes into that decision. Easy to say after the fact, but it was first and third. You put the go-ahead run on second with Bichette coming up. It's a tough one. Probably got too much of the plate with the pitch. That 3-1 pitch should probably be a ball, like a full balls width inside versus on the black. Same time, okay, I get it. The problem is you let not only New York's best hitter, one of baseball's best hitters beat you. I would much rather load the bases knowing that actually you have a multiple run lead here. Or, no, you don't. It was 3-2. Never mind. I would much rather load the bases and make Bichette beat you right on than I would give Juan Soto a chance to blow it open like that. And that was obviously the worst case outcome you could have gotten from Soto. Obviously. But Bichette gets up there. He grounds out back to the pitcher. I think it was like 50-something miles an hour. Really one of those, in retrospect, easy to say you should have just walked Soto. But in reality, I think you don't directly attack him, right? You kind of pitch around him a little bit. So there you go. But we end up going to the 10th inning. And shout out to Matt Olson, right? This game should never have gone to extras. One, you should have kept the lead in the ninth. But two, you're now down 2 runs. They have Devin Williams in the game. And Ozzie hits a double, advances to third because literally Bo Bichette just forgot to stand within a nautical mile of third base. And then Matt Olson pops an opposite field home run to tie it up. And at that point, that's where stuff gets a little weird, right? And you see some of the issues with this roster come up at that point. Let's talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, this episode's brought to you by our friends at IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom-infused coffees are the tasty, low-sugar brain and body fuel that you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack's a great way to try all of the IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. And all IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom-infused coffees. And the Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. Right now, IQ Bar is offering Braves Today listeners 20% off of all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. The Braves end up losing this game. And the 9th and 10th inning, I think, in multiple different ways, show that this roster is still flawed and that they're still doing things wrong here. Okay. So let's pick it up from the Matt Olson home run. Okay. So Olson homers, game is now tied at 5. Drake Baldwin singles to left. Walt Weiss pulls a lever, right? He goes to Jorge Mateo to run. I get it. Jorge Mateo is Quite literally one of the 3 fastest players in baseball. Love Drake Baldwin. He is not fleet of foot. Okay. So Mateo's running for Baldwin. He gets to second base on a ground out. And then he gets to third on a ground out. They don't try to steal with him or otherwise push the matter, which, okay, I would have liked to have been aggressive there, especially when you only had 1 out, but whatever. Joey Bart draws a walk. Joey Bart didn't start this game. Joey Bart is in this game because Dominic Smith gets pinch hit for. Like, in the 5th inning. Freddie Peralta leaves the game with 2 outs in the 5th. They go to Ciano Perez, the lefty. So we go to Joey Bart instead of Dominic Smith. So Bart's in the game because of that. He grounded out against Perez that time. And then when he comes back around, he strikes out in the 7th. And then here, he draws a walk in the 9th. When Riley grounds out, you've got Bart on second, Mateo on third. And Atlanta pulls another lever. And they're like, okay. New York's pulling Devin Williams, who was just not that effective in this game. Neither closer was really that good. They pull Devin Williams. They go to Brooks Raley. So we go to Jose Azocar. They don't want to use Mike Yastrzemski against a lefty. Okay. It's a small sample size. Azocar's been worse against lefties than righties in AAA. And also, he's a fringe major leaguer. Maybe just let Mike Yastrzemski take the at-bat. I know, again, you don't love Yastrzemski against lefties. You gave him at-bats against lefties in spring training and earlier in the season for a reason. Give him a chance to try. Azocar strikes out. It's not particularly close. It's not a good at-bat. And you go to the 10th. And Atlanta in the 10th, a lot of roster moving you have to do. You've sacrificed the DH because you moved Joey Bart to catcher. And so you have to find places to put everybody. Dubon moves from left field to third. Jorge Mateo moves to left. Azocar stays in the game for right. And your pitcher has to take a position player spot because you gave up the DH. So that's Austin Riley's spot. That's why Dubon's at third. And the pitcher you use is Owen Murphy, who was called up yesterday and would be making his major league debut in the 10th inning against a division rival with a runner on second and a makeshift defense behind him. I am the person, I want to be clear with this. Back before the winter meetings, Alex Anthopoulos had a press conference, and I asked Alex in the press conference why we didn't use starting pitching prospects in the bullpen more. That we've done it a couple times, right? AJ Smith-Shawver, Max Fried, Strider, and Strider and Fried especially, talked about how it helped them acclimate to the majors. And we've seen them do it this year with Didier Fuentes. But at the time, we hadn't really done it. And Alex said that he preferred to do that too, but with the roster construction, they were trying to figure out the best 8 relievers in the pen. So they didn't do it. They didn't do it that often. Clearly, things have changed, and they're doing it more often this year. And again, just to be clear, somebody's going to laugh that I'm making this suggestion, but if I don't say it, somebody else is going to criticize me for it. I am in no way saying that I was the reason they did that. I just asked a question in a press conference. That's it. So keep in mind that I'm the person who publicly questioned the front office on not doing this. That was the wrong time to put a prospect who had to make his MLB debut. That was the wrong time to do it. There should have been a real standard professional reliever on the roster to take the 10th inning. And part of the issue here is that when Atlanta made their call-ups yesterday, they called up Murphy, right? And then they brought J.R. Ritchie back. They had sent him down on Sunday morning. He had thrown the end of Saturday's game, got a save out of it. And they brought him back using the Martin Perez injury, right? If you are replacing an injured player, you don't have to stay down 15 days. Ritchie wasn't available to pitch. Ritchie wasn't up out of the pen. So they were down to 7 arms in the bullpen yet again. It was another situation where they were down to 7 guys in the pen. The Braves have been running short-handed in the bullpen for 2 weeks now. And this is another example of how it came back to get them. They didn't go to Danny Young. He had pitched twice in 3 days, just coming off of the IL after rehabbing from TJ. They didn't go to Dylan Dodd. He had pitched 3 times in 5 days. So Owen Murphy was it. Now, I know that if Ronaldo Lopez had gotten a 6th inning, had gotten through the 6th, then this isn't a problem. You have a Kenley available. You have somebody who's up and ready to pitch. I get that. I also get that if he doesn't end up giving up a 3-run, 2-run double to Luis Torrens with 2 outs and 2 strikes, we're probably not having this conversation. But the point is, the Braves have handled this pitching staff suboptimally for the last month or so. And Walt Weiss has taken a lot of the heat. Carlos Carrasco has had a hand in multiple losses because he was the only guy available out of the pen, or it didn't make sense to use the only leverage reliever you had left in a loss, right? It's not Walt Weiss's fault. It's the front office's fault. And at a certain point, we need to get away from a 6-man rotation and a 7-man bullpen. And like technically, with Murphy and Ritchie both being confirmed to not pitch in the rotation this week, you're technically running an 8-man bullpen. But you called a kid up who could not pitch. You called a kid up who was unavailable last night. Ritchie's probably not up until Wednesday. He threw 46 pitches on Saturday. He's a starting pitcher. He's not a reliever. He probably can't come back until maybe he can cut a day off of his normal rest cycle before he starts again, or before he pitches again. But you chose to go with a short bullpen, which meant that you had a starting pitcher who had never pitched in the majors before and didn't know he was going to need to go into the game until the 9th inning when you gave up a home run. I say in retrospect, but I feel like even up front, even as the guy who has said, let these kids pitch out of the pen, you really should have just told Owen Murphy, listen, you're going to start against the Pirates this week. You're going to start on Wednesday opposite Jared Jones. And hey, Grant Holmes, you're a guy who's been in the bullpen before. You're a guy who's been a reliever, who understands how to get up and get hot in a hurry and be effective. We're going to let you be available in the pen Monday night. Because last night, and again, this is nothing against Owen Murphy. I was really impressed with his ability, like that curveball, what that curveball was doing. He was landing it up in the zone for strikes. We've talked about that a little bit on the show. The elevated breaking balls. The 4-seam fastball, running it up the ladder with that induced vertical break and getting... I broke out in laughter in my office, Scared Bandit, when he got that final strikeout in the 10th inning. And it looked, even from the center field camera, it looked like the pitch was just rising all the way to the plate. I just started chuckling like, you got to be kidding me. Howard dude's supposed to hit that. I think he's great. I'm so excited that he's up. But Grant Holmes should have been in that game last night. A guy who's actually been a reliever once in his career. Owen Murphy had literally never entered a game in relief in his professional career until last night. And you can quibble a little bit about whose fault is that, right? Did Walt Weiss set the rotation? Did the front office set the rotation? They did it collaboratively, whatever. But the bigger issue here is Atlanta has been almost intentionally hamstringing themselves with flexibility with this roster, right? They carried 2 DHs for a while. They got rid of Rowdy Tellez because he wasn't good. They're still carrying Dom Smith, who got a hit last night, but all in all has not been good for most of the season. It's a thing that I mentioned it yesterday. I jokingly said it was just a month or something like that. Somebody in the Discord flagged this for me. Since like the last week of May, he's hitting 235 with a 324 slug. He has a 608 OPS since the end of May. Arguably, Dom Smith probably shouldn't be here. And it's like another explanation of why Carlos Santana got signed and Andrew McCutchen got signed. Because until you get Ronald back, they are looking for options at DH. And even when you get Ronald back, you're in a situation of Yastrzemski's not hitting that well. I know that there's been a lot of talk about Austin Riley not being good recently. Or this season, really. And some of this is what are you expecting him to do, right? The expectations for Riley are a lot higher than Yastrzemski. Riley has a 335 slug. Yastrzemski's at a 346. It's 11 points better. Yaz is 11 points better in slug than Riley is. So, yes, Riley's been bad this year. Yastrzemski hasn't been good. So even when Ronald is back, you still have to figure out, who do you have to go at DH? Who can you use? Do you play Joey Bart more and let Baldwin DH more? Do you stick Ronald in there? There's a whole thing here, right? But the Braves are not helping themselves with the roster construction the way that this whole thing is set up. They are intentionally going shorthanded here. And I understand Eli White was on paternity. They didn't know he was going to go on paternity. Apparently, Jose Azocar got to the ballpark at 4 o'clock yesterday or something, like 4 p.m. or something nuts like that. But they're just, it's been a lot of inefficiency, right? And you called up 2 relievers, or 2 kids to be relievers. You called up Richie and Murphy. Again, Richie couldn't pitch. And you asked Murphy to make his debut in extras. Why not call up 1 regular reliever and then either Richie or Murphy, right? Why not have more of a standard bullpen? 1 long man. And then from there, 7 professional relievers who have been relievers in their careers. Just really frustrating how you're intentionally hamstringing yourself on this. After the break, let's talk about the Pirates, right? You swept them when you faced them earlier in the year. But the Pirates team you saw June 5th through 7th is not the Pirates team you'll see July 7th through July 9th. Both good and bad. We'll talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of the show. 3 against the Pirates starting tonight. Again, the pitching matchups, Hurst and Waldrep versus Paul Skenes tonight. You missed him last time. Holmes versus Jared Jones on Wednesday. Bryce Elder versus Mitch Keller on Thursday. Glad to see Bryce Elder's finally in the rotation again, because you played a man short over the weekend because you ran a 6-man because you were skipping him. I still wish you could have gotten him maybe a little bit earlier or something, but whatever. He's in the rotation. That's great. He's making another start before the All-Star break. If he wasn't going to be in the rotation here, you were going to need to IL him because you couldn't just keep running a man short. We saw last night what that does to you. But both good and bad, this is not the same Pirates team that you faced for 3. 1, they have guys back that they didn't have at the time. So the starting shortstop in that series was Jared Triolo. He hit ninth twice. He hit eighth once. And they pinch hit for him at least once, I believe. Or maybe he hit eighth twice and ninth once. And they pitch hit for him one time in there. This time, it's Konnor Griffin. The kid is back. He is leading off for the Pirates. So you have not had to face Konnor Griffin yet. So this is a tougher version of the Pirates because of that than the version that you faced back a month ago. And for Griffin, it's been really interesting to see what he's done since he got off of the injured list. Because he pretty much just hasn't missed a beat. He went down, he was hitting 270 with a 729 OPS. He's played 8 games since coming back. And he's just better than he was. 306 with a 776 OPS. He hasn't missed a beat at all for missing close to a month. He has 2 extra base hits in his 11 hits. He's stolen 6 bags without being caught once. He's still vulnerable to strikeouts, right? 9 strikeouts in 8 games. But this is a number 1 prospect in baseball for a reason. He's got speed. He's got power. He's a good defender. This is a better Pirates team because they have Konnor Griffin. And I just think that's something that we need to be prepared for starting tonight. Another thing that makes this tough is the performance of some of the guys who didn't really do that well in the first series, right? Bryan Reynolds, in the first 3 games of the series, had 1 hit. He had a double. And we were lucky that he didn't beat us in that series, because in the month of May, leading into that series we played, he was hitting 313 with a 933 OPS right before he came to Atlanta. So we kind of got lucky. I say lucky. The pitchers were skilled. They got him out. But you didn't get beat by Bryan Reynolds. Atlanta also had I'm going to call it the advantage of having Oneil Cruz in center field. That wasn't a bit of an adventure. As far as defense goes, he struck out 4 times against us in the 2 games he started. He walked 3 times. But defensively, he is talented yet not fundamentally sound in center field. Now they have Jake Mangum out there. And Jake Mangum offensively is not anything to get excited about. But defensively, he is fundamentally sound. And so the ability to just kind of get some cheap or easy offensive production off of a misplay from Oneil Cruz in center field is gone. The biggest difference here, though, is facing Paul Skenes. We didn't face Paul Skenes, obviously, last time. And I'm going to talk about Skenes from the perspective of kind of like we talked about when we faced the Giants, how we talked about Willy Adames and Rafi Devers and Matt Chapman. Talented players not having a good season. They're still very talented. They can still get you. Paul Skenes is Paul Skenes. He has a 3.62 ERA, which is unusually high for him. Since the middle of May, so a month and a half, Paul Skenes has a 5.36 ERA. Now, some of that is some things outside of his control. His FIP is 3.58 in that stretch. He still struck out 63 dudes in 47 innings. But it is very hard to argue that he is the same guy that was Rookie of the Year and won the Cy Young and took the ERA title. He's not playing like that guy right now. He's coming off a start on July 1st against Philly, where he gave up 8 runs, 7 earned, on 6 hits in 4 innings. Walked 2, struck out 5. And like, even in the bad outings, he's striking out guys, right? He went 5 innings against Cincinnati at home to end June with 4 runs allowed on 6 hits. He struck out 7. Like, he still got his strikeouts. And so I don't really know what to expect from Paul Skenes tonight. But what I do know is even if he's not playing well right now, just like Willy Adames wasn't, just like Rafi Devers wasn't, just like when you got to the Padres that Manny Machado wasn't, or Fernando Tatis Jr. wasn't, from a power perspective at least. They were all still really talented players, and they were all still able to play like stars in certain at-bats at times. Paul Skenes can still do that. So we really internally should think of this more, oh, we're facing Paul Skenes, than thinking about this, oh, Paul Skenes is gettable right now. It's going to be a fun series. I'm really excited to see the matchup of Waldrep versus Skenes tonight. I think that's a great matchup. Again, we'll preview the actual matchup itself on the scouting report this afternoon. Typically, once the lineups go out, I like to go live and break down the sequencing and pitch utilization from both pitchers and the bullpen status. Atlanta's going to be a disaster out of the bullpen tonight. You're probably not going to have Murphy. I'm recording this, it is 9 a.m. Eastern. They may send him down today and bring up a fresh arm. I don't know. But like, all of your leverage guys through last night, and Kenley's thrown 2 straight days. Several of them, Iggy threw 25 pitches. Fuentes threw 23, so he's going to be down. Is Richie able to come back or not? It's going to be a match. You're really going to need to have a 5-run lead tonight, just to make sure that you don't have to try to run out a leverage arm like a Lee for his 4th appearance in 6 days in a back-to-back, or an Iglesias when he's already at 47 pitches in the last 5 days. It's going to be rough. We'll break all that down on the scouting report. But this just feels different, right? This series feels a little different from the perspective of last night was another opportunity where you could have gained ground on the Phillies, because they not only lost to the Royals, they got blown out. They got shellacked against the Royals, who famously have an amazing offense, right? Christopher Sanchez gives up 9 runs on 12 hits in 3 1/3 innings. He gets taken deep 3 different times. Salvador Perez gets 1. Lane Thomas gets 1. Catcher, you can tell how bad things were. Catcher Luke Maley took him deep for 1. If that gives you an indication of how bad things were for Christopher Sanchez last night. And so you had a chance to gain some ground on the Phillies, and you lost 2. So the Braves are still 3 games up. I don't really like to look at standings in July, right? There's just not really much you can, one, do about it. It's a lot of extra just worrying for no reason. But 2, specifically this year, because you play the Phillies 7 times in the month of September. As long as one team's within 4 games of the other, the division is up for grabs in September. So, yeah. But would have been nice. You didn't do it. Very frustrating. Hopefully, you can win this series tonight. They are at Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is going to get Chase Burns in this series. They're going to get Chase Burns on Wednesday. But Nick Lodolo just had a great outing. He already pitched. Andrew Abbott's on Tuesday. Brady Singer's on Thursday. Singer's ERA is over 5. Abbott's ERA is close to 4. The Phillies probably have the advantage in that series. Atlanta's got to hold serve. You got to win 2 out of 3 against the Pirates. If you win 2 out of 3 and you lose a game in the standings, it's hard to be mad about that because you did your job. But you can't lose this series. You got to start winning series again. And if you don't, it's going to be a long summer. That'll do it for Braves Today. Please like the video. Please subscribe both here and on bravestoday.com. A lot of stuff coming out. A lot of draft content this week. Taylor's got a couple pieces. I did a deep dive on Riley yesterday. Today, we dropped a piece, more trade deadline preview stuff. Talked about Casey Mize. How if you want to add a starter, how he would make a lot of sense for not only this season, but also as a recruiting pitch for the future. So check that out. And we'll talk to you next time on Braves Today.